Steve, we sat right here 10, 11 years ago, and you looked out this very window here to your right. We talked a little bit about what might be in the future and a little bit of a tribute to what has been. But you were in the early years of your presidency, and now you're coming up on the new millennium. Just a brief reflection, and then I want to talk about some of the ceremony that is part of the University of La Verne experience. What about these years?
Well, I think the reflection is that we have come a long way, and I don't remember exactly what we talked about that day, but I think we talked about continually improving the University of La Verne and doing what we do even better, improving facilities, improving our services to students so they could get an even better education at the University of La Verne. And I think we have made a lot of progress, but the list of things to do just seems to get longer. So no matter how much we achieve, the list gets longer. And I think that's as it should be. If we're ever satisfied with what we do, then we ought to hang it up and walk out the door.
New buildings, new programs,
yes.
Expanded program, worldwide programs, the little small University of La Verne, big time player, relatively speaking, as the 21st century comes up.
And some really exciting initiatives to help usher in this next century. One of those is to position our law school to be able to apply for ABA. I think that's a dream we've all had since the day it started, and finally now, almost years later, we're positioning ourselves for that. A school of education that will help really shine the spotlight even brighter on something that we do extremely well, training teachers and training administrators. It will take us to the table in an even more important way in California. As California looks to improve education, I think people will look to La Verne for some of the answers. That's exactly what we hope will happen, and I think it will.
The leadership in many areas at the university is steeped in what I call the La Verne tradition. And some people look at this a little bit askance, but you already know that I'm a dreamer and can't be completely objective about La Verne. I take this back to those early brethren families and what they stood for. Came out here and had belief in service, had belief in giving of themselves, and the members of those families, one is the mayor, the sons and daughters and great-grandchildren are still involved in the university, and I like to believe that that heritage has carried through the service and service to mankind, service to each other, exists today.
Oh, I think so. I think that if you look at La Verne's mission statement, if you look at our interest in service, if you look at our interest in cultural diversity and accepting all people as important players in this society, it comes out of our heritage in the Church of the Brethren. I sometimes wonder if we haven't even carried that further than the Founding Fathers ever dreamed we would, and in such a much larger environment than they ever anticipated. They would never have dreamed that we'd have 6,500 students all over the world, ranging in age from 18 to 75, getting doctorates and sitting on the bench as judges. It's beyond their wildest expectations, but I think they'd be pleased at how true we've been to the mission and what they really wanted to achieve with this institution.
Yeah. I have said about our little town, and people will say, well, Bill Neill sees a different La Verne I see, because there are people, detractors from the image, and maybe mine is a little bit idealistic, and the same about the university. My feeling, Steve, is maybe we're not everything that we propose that we want to be and that we strive to be, but when we set those as goals and we model those images of service, of quality education, aren't we more likely to have people come along?
You're one of my mentors, and you filmed him early on when you did the first presidential perspectives. Harold Fosnot sat in the chapel as you filmed him. And he said, part of my job was to go out and tell people how great La Verne was and then come back and see if we could really make it as good as I said it was. I think we've always got to push that target out beyond our grasp and tell people how great we are and then come back and make sure we are as great as we say we are. And that just makes us better and better all the time, I think.
At another time, I want to talk with you, and I know it makes you, to a degree, uncomfortable, but you have had a role, an important role, and it will be part of your legacy as president. And again, saying that other people obviously involved as a team. That's the way it is in my business as well. But I've looked at some of the things that I think will be your legacy, and I'm going to venture out just a little bit. What you've done to encourage minorities, specifically young Latinas, to step out and to be independent and to be involved in leadership, truly miraculous. Would you admit to that being one of your, maybe within your overall goals, but one of the specific things that you probably will change in years to come?
It's a passion I have. I think the longer I've been at La Verne, the more I believe in what we do. And as I stand on the platform on commencement day, I'm even more convinced that we're doing the right thing. And that is, we do open doors of opportunity for students from all cultural and religious and political and economic backgrounds. And education, more than any other vehicle, has the ability to level the playing field, and we do that extremely well at La Verne.
21st century, a new campaign. What we'll be saying about what the university is and why people should financially support the University of La Verne. I know you've heard, I'm pretty sure you've heard Tom Harvey's J-curve philosophy. Have you heard that?
No. Sure, I've heard it, but I've long forgotten it. So review it for me quickly. I only pay attention part of the time to what Tom Harvey says. The other part I'm dozing.
Even today, I'm sure he could chuckle about that.
He would.
Yeah. He gave a lecture to a group of teachers, teacher leadership, and he talked about the change in our culture, the change in all that technology is making. And he refers to the Industrial Revolution, slow increase in technology, and that there's been this explosion of technology with the computer, digitized image, satellites, that it forms a J-curve of knowledge, and that knowledge is beyond what we can comprehend, and therefore the past cannot be counted on as a reference to learn. We learn from our past. Now, I don't want to say hogwash, but I say, well, technology is a tool. It's the human endeavor, the heart,
yeah.
And that all of these things are just tools. So, what about the university in the 21st century? How will our change and how will it stay the same? In a nugget.
In a nugget. Well, I had a conversation with a longtime faculty member just this morning about that very topic, and that is that technology is a marvelous tool that all of us use, and it makes information available to us that I never dreamed would be available to me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in my home, in my office, on an airplane. I can access information I could never have dreamed of accessing. And I think technology can help improve education. But as I said to the faculty member this morning, in training leaders for the next century, 95% of what I do, maybe 98% of what I do, is person to person, people to people. It's not with technology. It's sitting down and talking with people, communicating with people, reading people, soliciting their ideas, using them as resources. So I'm convinced that technology can play a major role in helping us train students, in helping us relate knowledge to students, but they're still going to have to spend time with people, and La Verne is a people institution. So as we move into the next century, I can't presuppose to know technological influence, but we're still going to be dealing with human beings, one person to one person to groups, and groups. So we're still going to have personal contact. We won't really be able to all sit at home at a terminal and have a college education experience.
Along the way, there have been, and something that's a personal interest of mine, there has been leadership, there have been events that have influenced the Lordsburg College and then La Verne College. There have been new programs, and each of these events and these personalities that had an impact are part of our story. One thing that I want to cover at some time here in the future is the number of business men and women who've stepped forward to be a part of the university. Just in a quick survey way, from the Harrises to the Lairds to the car construction to all of them. How does that relationship work? We get paid, but still, we get things done we probably couldn't get done out of a straight contract, perhaps.
Oh, I think it's the same thing that happens to faculty members who come here and say, well, all right, I'll spend a few years at La Verne and then I'll move on to bigger and better venues. It's students who come here and say, I think I'll go to La Verne for a year or two. I decide what I want to do, and lo and behold, those students finish their years at La Verne. Those faculty members stay 30 years or 40 years. We do make a difference at La Verne, and you don't have to be here very long to see that in this environment you really can make a difference. One person can make a big difference. I think our vendors see that one vendor can make a big difference at the University of La Verne, and I think we set the hook and keep them here, and they get involved and they believe in what we do and they want to be a part of it.
Didn't go to school, did he?
Jerry did not go to school here. Jerry grew up in La Verne, and his family grew up in this area. They built their business in this area, but he is one of those who I think got into the fold, and he just latched on and said, I want to be a part of that organization. And what a difference he makes, what a difference the Harrises make, the Wilsons, the Lances, all those people, La Verne, different paths, but how long they've been involved and how much they've invested in the life of this institution. Tremendous amounts of themselves and their resources. What a difference they've made.
Part of what the La Verne tradition is our commencement exercise. And as I mentioned, it's, if not unique, definitely distinctive. It is a showcase, it is a celebration, it is pageantry, and if I were walking across that stage, I'd feel like a very important person. How did the commencement exercises take on this grand production that it has here in recent years?
I think that it started even before I came. By the time I came, people were beginning to say commencement needs to be something special. You hit it on the head. We want each student who crosses that platform to have a moment of recognition and glory and celebration. And we want them to be focus of attention. So in a sense, they have their 15 seconds of fame rather than 15 minutes. And we want their families to beam with pride and say, that's our Bill out there. That's our Bill. He did it. And for all of us to recognize Bill and at that moment tip our hats and say, job well done. And that's really been the spirit of commencement. We wanted it to be a celebration. I have to say, the Friday before commencement, I was absolutely beat. And I thought, if I have to say one more word, I'm not sure I can. I am tired. This has been a particularly draining year for a wide variety of reasons. I got up Monday morning and I was excited, and I was excited the rest of the day. And the more I got into commencement, the more electrified I was by the whole process. And Monday morning, the glow still was there. I was physically tired and emotionally tired, but the glow was still there because it's such a terrific day of celebration. And I have the unique opportunity to look in the eyes of each person and just exchange a word or two with them. But I see so many different backgrounds, so many walks of life, and the oldest looking person that came across the platform, she was gray-haired, she'd certainly been around the block a few times, and as I handed her her diploma and congratulated her, she said, "This is a dream come true. Made my day, made my year."
You bet. And I've had that same experience. My day starts about 7 o'clock in the morning and is over about 7 at night. And I think standing on my feet that period, sometimes, not this year, but really hot. And it takes that first family with a graduate with tears running down their face and the family embracing them and hugging them, me right back up through the ceiling.
I think what I notice is if this is something that 10 or 12,000 people think is important enough to take their Memorial Day weekend to do, we ought to make sure that it's the best it can possibly be for them. And I'm not the one who makes that happen. There are literally hundreds of campus people who start in July to make sure that commencement in May is a success. We have faculty and staff who don't have it in their job descriptions, but give hours and hours of their time to make sure commencement works extremely well for everyone. And my hat is off to all of those people because they're the ones who are here late the night before and stay all day that day and prepare for it and make sure that it's as perfect as it can be. And again, we're never satisfied. Each year we learn new things, like from you this year, we need to better position the microphones on the podium. We need smaller microphones. We need to improve it every year. But each year, people are looking around, taking notes, saying, how can we make this better for graduates and their families?